My dad died this week. The first thing my husband asked me was, "How long will you be gone?" The second thing he did was refuse to drive me to the airport. I'd just labeled a fridge full of meals for him. 7 neat containers, Monday through Sunday, snapped shut in a row like little promises he didn't deserve. He blinked at me from the pillow and rolled over. "No, are you okay?" "No, do you want me there?" Just a sigh, a groan, and a no. By noon, while I was still booking an Uber with my hands shaking, his mother sent a 5-page email. 5 pages. I didn't see a single, "I'm sorry for your loss." I did see the words, "Come home immediately," and a threat dressed up as advice. If I didn't return to serve her son, she'd help him find someone better. So here's the line in the sand. My father is gone, my mother is breaking, and I am done pretending this is normal. I thought the worst part of that morning was the ride alone to the airport. It wasn't. The worst part was the last sentence of my mother-in-law RS email, something I can T unread and 1 T forget. And no, it wasn't the threat. Dad had been sick for a while, but the end still arrived like a door slamming in an empty house. One minute we were measuring meds and watching Salt. The next, the phone lit up the dark like a flare. David got there first. He lives a few hours away, so he threw clothes in a bag and just drove. I booked the earliest flight I could find with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Outside, the sky hadn't decided if it was night or morning. Inside, my chest already knew. The Uber smelled like stale coffee and rain. Streetlights skated across the windshield in broken lines. In my tote, black dress rolled tight, a folder for papers Dad always kept, just in case, and a small photo of us playing cards at the kitchen table, his grin crooked, mine wide open. I pressed the corner of that photo until it left a square on my palm. At the airport, everything was loud and fluorescent. Beeping scanners, wheels rattling over tile, a child crying somewhere I couldn't see. I moved through it all like I was underwater. I expected a text from my husband. Anything. Nothing came. My phone buzzed once. A calendar alert for meal prep check. I almost laughed. When the plane lifted, the city folded into a necklace of lights and then into nothing. I counted breaths. I counted clouds. I counted the minutes between thinking this isn't real and knowing it was. Mom looked smaller at the arrivals curb. Her hug was all bones and soap and the kind of shaking that starts deep. We didn't say the big words. We said logistics, visitation times, funeral home, which suit, which photo. David handled calls. I took insurance papers because Dad trusted me with neat stacks and paper clips. Grief kept trying to sit down. Duty kept telling it to stand up. That first night, when the house finally went quiet, I opened Dad's folder to sort what tomorrow needed. A page slid loose. His handwriting I knew by heart. It wasn't a document. It was a sentence, and it wasn't meant for tomorrow. Before the sun, the house was a dim aquarium. Blue light from the fridge, everything else floating. I lined up the meals like evidence. Chili, lemon chicken, rice, steamed greens. Labels neat, lids clicked shut. Monday through Sunday, because if I didn't, he'd just grab takeout and then complain about money like it wasn't the same money. When I finally touched his shoulder, he blinked without waking. "Dad passed away," I said. "How long will you be gone?" he asked. Not, "I'm sorry," not, "Do you want me to come with you?" A timeline request, like I was borrowing his car. "Can you at least drive me to the airport?" I tried. He rolled away. "It's early." I stared at the back of his head and thought about the little rules he calls care. Share your location, no male friends, text when you arrive, text when you leave, text if you stop, text if you don't. I booked an Uber in the hallway, the app glow lighting my hands like I dipped them in milk. As the car idled outside, I left a post-it on the counter, arrows to the meals, a note about reheating. The door clicked. The hallway smelled like someone else's laundry. At the curb, the driver asked, "Airport?" I said yes and swallowed the word alone. By the time we merged onto the freeway, my phone lit up. It wasn't him. It was his mother, and she wasn't calling to say she was sorry. She started mid-sentence, like we'd been arguing for hours. "Why are you gone a whole week? Your husband is by himself. This is not what a wife—" My dad died. I said. The words felt like coins dropping into a well. I know, she replied, which somehow made it worse. But you have a home to run. He needs hot meals, fresh, not containers. I watched the freeway lights strobe over the dashboard. The driver pretended he couldn't hear. I won't be back until my mom can breathe without shaking, I said. There's food, there's money, there's Uber. You are neglecting your duties. Come home tomorrow. I'll help you plan. I'm staying, I said, calm like a locked door. We can talk when the funeral is over. She inhaled like she was about to dive. You think grief is a free pass? You're creating problems because you don't know how to manage conflict. If you come home, we can fix. I looked out at the thinning night and thought about all the times I'd managed by being smaller. Not today. This conversation is over, I said, and ended the call. For 2 exits, my phone stayed quiet. Then it buzzed again and again, a woodpecker under glass. Voicemail, texts, subject lines stacking like bricks. At the airport drop-off, the driver said, "Take care of yourself." I'm trying, I said, and meant it for the first time. Inside, between the check-in kiosks and the security line, my inbox blinked. One new email from mother-in-law. The preview showed the first sentence. It wasn't a condolence, it was an ultimatum, 5 pages long. I read it sitting on a cold plastic chair while Flight 218 flickered on the board. Page 1, I was abandoning her son. I was withholding care. The prepped meals were not real food. Page 2, housekeeping complaints. She'd been helping clean because he doesn't clean, and somehow that was my fault. Page 3, responsibilities. My duty to return immediately and serve him properly. Page 4, a pep talk that wasn't a pep talk. How's a real woman wouldn't let grief interfere with her husband's needs. Page 5, the threat, packaged as guidance. If I didn't come home now, she'd help him consider leaving me because he could do better. My hands stopped shaking. They went still, the way stillness sometimes means the ocean is pulling back before it breaks. I could have replied. I could have explained like I always do, line by line, as if this were a misunderstanding and not a map of how they want my life to look. Small, busy, grateful. Instead, I closed the email and opened a new note titled Line in the Sand. I typed 3 sentences, plain, legal, not angry. The kind you only write once you're done bargaining with reality. Over the PA, a voice called pre-boarding. I stood, tucked my tote closer, and felt the folder in it press against my ribs. The one Dad labeled, just in case. There's a page in that folder that doesn't belong to the paperwork. A single line in his handwriting. I hadn't told anyone about it yet, and it's the reason I didn't answer her email. The days stacked themselves like heavy books, calls to the funeral home, forms with boxes that shouldn't exist, choosing a photo where Dad's smile looked like it could still move. David handled logistics. I handled papers. Mom drifted through rooms and kept touching door frames like they might answer back. At night, we told small stories. The way Dad cheated at cards by winking, the way he whistled off key in the garage. We laughed, and then the laugh tipped over. Grief kept sitting down. Duty kept telling it to stand up. My phone stayed blank where his name should have been. Not a check-in, not a, "How's your mom?" Once, a text arrived. "Where did you put the soy sauce?" Then, nothing again. I put the phone face down and let the screen go dark. Mom's kettle hissed, rain stitched against the kitchen window. I spread Dad's folder across the table, yellow tabs like quiet flags. Insurance. Deed. Receipts so neatly paper-clipped it made my chest ache. The page that didn't belong slid out again, as if it had been waiting for me to quit pretending I hadn't seen it. I didn't answer my mother-in-law's email. I didn't explain. I kept the stillness. Tonight, I'd stop keeping it. By afternoon, my phone had turned into a woodpecker. Missed call. Mael stacked 12 times, voicemails bubbling up like tar. I turned on Do Not Disturb and allowed 3 numbers. Mom, David, the funeral director. Everything else could knock on a locked door. Her messages arrived anyway, subject lines that marched. Urgent. Second notice. Final warning. I opened one just long enough to see a sentence. A real wife would be here. I didn't argue with the sentence. I dragged it into a new folder. Evidence. I poured Mom tea and added too much honey. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and wet wool. David texted from the den. Program for tomorrow. Check your email? I said yes, and meant it in more ways than one. When the dishes were done and the hallway went soft again, I carried Dad's folder to my old room. The ceiling still had the faint shadow of glow-in-the-dark stars. I sat on the floor, the way I used to sit to tie my sneakers before school, and smoothed the page that wasn't a document. It wasn't instructions. It wasn't advice. It was something smaller and heavier. I read it once, then twice. Then I stopped pretending I could unread it. It was his handwriting, angled, certain, a little impatient with the world. Just one sentence, centered like he'd known I would try to dodge it if it hid in a paragraph. You seem to have lost the light in your eyes. I hope you get it back soon. The room went very still. I could hear the refrigerator hum through two walls, the faint click of the baseboard as the heat shut off. I thought about the airport chair, the 5 pages, the soy sauce text, the way I've been walking on eggshells so long my feet forgot the floor. Dad's sentence didn't ask me to be brave forever. It asked me to be honest now. I put the page back in the folder and snapped the tab closed. Then I opened my notes app, the one titled Line in the Sand, and added one more line. Not angry, not dramatic, just true. I am done living small. Tomorrow, after we chose flowers and finalized the music, I would make a call. Not to explain. To say one sentence out loud, and it wouldn't be an apology. Morning smelled like chrysanthemums and coffee we forgot to drink. After the florist, after the music list, I stepped onto the porch where the air was cold enough to make my breath visible. I called him first. I'm staying with Mom until after the funeral, I said. Stop asking for a timeline. Stop asking my mother to manage your feelings. A beat. Then the old script. You're being dramatic. Come home and we'll talk. No, I said, and it came out steady. Here's what will happen. I'll call you when arrangements are done. Until then, do not call my mother. Do not send threats through your mother. If anything of mine goes missing or gets accidentally damaged, I will file a report and pursue it. He exhaled into the phone like he was fogging a mirror. You think you can talk to me like that? I'm talking to you like someone who knows where the line is, I said, and I'm on the right side of it. I ended the call before the script could restart. Then I called her. I didn't explain grief to a person who itemizes it. You've sent enough messages, I said. Further contact about household duties goes to my lawyer. Condolences may be mailed. She tried to laugh, but it snagged. You don't have a lawyer. I didn't correct her. Goodbye. When I went back inside, Mom was pinning Dad's boutonniere to a small velvet square like she was tucking in a child. David looked up. You okay? I will be, I said. I drew a line. He nodded once like he'd been waiting to hear it out loud. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Not a call, not an email. A message with a picture I never expected to see, sent from a number I didn't recognize. And whatever it showed, it would make the next step very, very clear. The picture was a screenshot from years ago, my shared location sitting still on our home map at 1:13 a.m., circled in red. Under it, his text, if you loved me, you'd keep this on. The unknown number added, you don't know me, but you should know he forwarded this to a group chat once. Thought it was relationship goals. Sorry for your loss. My stomach went hollow. Not because I didn't know the pattern, because now it had witnesses. The reel unspooled in my head, clean as a training video. The job offer I never took because we don't need the money, followed by his monthly complaints about expenses I wasn't allowed to impact. Friends I stopped seeing because girls' nights get wild, and why would you need a sleepover? The meal prep charts, the location pings, the text me when you park, stacked with text me if plans change, stacked with text me a picture so I know you, really there. The doctor's quiet office where we learned the actual reason we hadn't conceived, followed by his silence and his mother's opinion about real women. On my phone, I created a folder named Pattern. Screenshots went in. The forwarded location image went in. The voicemail transcriptions went in. I wasn't gathering it to win an argument. I was gathering it to stop having one. When I closed the gallery, My reflection in the black screen startled me, older and less breakable than I felt. The house hummed. Mom called from the kitchen, asked if I wanted tea. I said yes. I wanted simple things again. Tea, a full breath, a future where my phone didn't feel like a leash. The hearse appointment was in an hour. I slipped the phone into my coat and the folder into my tote. The Polaroid of Dad and me slid forward. He was mid-laugh in that photo, and my eyes were all light. I touched the edge of the picture and decided something that made my hands stop shaking. I wasn't going to ask the internet if I was overreacting. I was going to tell my family what I was doing next. And if they said what I thought they would say, there'd be one more call to make after the service. After the visitation, after the last hug in the lobby, we went home to a quiet that felt earned. The house smelled like lilies and rain-wet coats. I told them everything at the kitchen table. The 5 pages, the calls, the picture from the stranger, the rules I'd been calling care. I expected Mom to soft pedal, to say, cool off and think. Instead, she put her hand over mine like she was blessing it. I've been waiting for you to hear yourself, she said. I'm sorry I didn't say this sooner. You don't have to go back to that. David pulled out a chair with his foot and sat heavier than usual. You know I've got you, right? Whatever you need. Storage, a ride, a witness. I nodded, and the nod turned into something messy. We didn't fix it. We let it be messy. When it passed, I opened the folder labeled Line in the Sand on my phone and read the sentences I'd written days ago. They didn't feel like borrowed bravery anymore. They felt like instructions I'd left myself for now. I'm going to tell them I'm leaving, I said. My voice didn't shake. Not to threaten, to inform. David's mouth tightened in a half smile. Want company for that call? Yes, I said, but not tonight. The kettle clicked off. The house held its breath with us. I took my tote to my old room and laid out what tomorrow needed. Black dress, program copies, car keys, the folder, the small Polaroid that kept catching me mid-laugh. I placed Dad's sentence on top where I could see it when I woke. You lose things slowly. Then sometimes you get them back all at once. My phone buzzed on the dresser. Another message, this time from him. We need to talk. Come home, now. No question mark, no please. I didn't answer. I set an alarm for morning, and I chose the words I would use when the talking finally happened. They fit in one breath, and none of them were sorry. The day after we laid Dad to rest, we sat with coffee we actually drank. Sun came in through the dining room like it remembered how. I handed Mom the Polaroid and Dad's sentence. She pressed both to her heart and then to my forehead like she was knighting me with paper. Go get your light, she said. I texted David. 10 minutes? He replied with a thumbs up and a cop's brevity. Ready. We didn't set up a debate. We set up a boundary. I started a group video call, him and his mother. They answered with matching frowns. I'm not coming home, I said. I'm moving out. This isn't a discussion. He scoffed, almost relieved to find a familiar stage. You're being crazy. You're on your... Stop, I said. If any of my belongings are damaged, removed, or withheld, we will proceed accordingly. I have records of your threats and your mother's emails. David is here. He's recording. We will collect my things this week. His mother leaned toward her camera, her face a sermon. This is because of my email? Don't be childish. I was concerned. I believe you were, I said. Just not for me. He tried a different angle. Come home and we can talk like adults. We are, I said. Here are the times I will arrive with help. If you're not there, that's fine. If you are, keep your hands off my property and your voice off my body. Something in his face shifted then, brittle turning to mean. If you walk through that door, I'll... David leaned into frame, calm as a traffic stop. You won't, he said. We'll see you Thursday. I ended the call. My hands didn't shake after. I expected them to. They didn't. In the window, I could see our reflections. My mother holding a Polaroid, my brother with his jaw set, me with eyes that looked like mine again. I picked up my tote, slid the folder inside, and set my phone to silent. Thursday had a shape now, and so did the rest of my life. People kept asking about kids like it was a side quest. It never was. I've always wanted a house with giggles in the hall, tiny socks in the dryer, a fridge covered in lopsided art. I want bedtime stories and a partner who doesn't need a manual to be kind. But wanting that with him felt like handing a kite to a storm. I pictured a child learning that love means tracking someone's location, that care means control, that grief has to clock out at dinner time. I pictured a little face watching me make myself smaller to keep the peace, and learning to do the same. I want children to grow up in a home where no one walks on eggshells, where sorry is a sentence you say without being asked, where boundaries aren't treated like betrayal. If I ever become a mom, I want my kid to point to us and say, "That's what support looks like." So I made peace with a hard mercy, grateful that biology had spared me from tying a life to a lesson I needed to unlearn. And then I did the only hopeful thing left to do. I packed a small bag, clean clothes, documents, the Polaroid, Dad's sentence. David texted, "Thursday, 10 a.m. truck's ready." Mom put a sandwich in my tote like I was leaving for school. "Go get your light," she said again. At 9:58, we pulled up to the curb outside the life I was done living. And the lock turned like it had been waiting for this exact key. David wore his officer calm like a uniform, even in jeans. We had a checklist, body cam app rolling, 2 friends by the truck, a neighbor on her porch with a curious book she wasn't reading. I rang the bell. No answer. The door opened anyway. He was there, arms crossed, mouth set to prove a point. His mother hovered behind him, staging the foyer like a courtroom. "We're here for my things," I said. "We'll be done in an hour." "You don't live here," he said, like words could undo a lease and a decade. "We'll keep to the list," David added, neutral as a traffic cone. "We're recording. Please don't interfere." In the bedroom, I folded clothes into boxes. He followed, narrating grievances under his breath, the way some people hum. When his voice rose, David stepped into the doorway without a word. The volume fell like someone had turned a dial. In the office, I lifted my work laptop and found a printed form under it, an insurance schedule with my jewelry itemized and a claim number penciled in the corner. My stomach went very still. I didn't say a word. I took a picture. The paper slid into pattern with the rest. His mother tried one last time at the kitchen island. "You can still fix this," she said, voice dipped in honey that had a sting. "Come home, apologize, cook dinner. Men forget when you feed them." "Some things aren't meant to be forgotten," I said. Only repeated, "I'm choosing otherwise." She looked past me to David. "Are you really letting her do this?" David didn't blink. "I'm helping her do it safely." Box by box, my life became portable. Books, sweaters, the mug with a chip that looked like Idaho. In the closet, I took my coat, and behind it, found the dress I wore the day Dad taught me to drive, still smelling faintly of his cologne if I pretended hard enough. I pressed the sleeve to my face and let the pretending be real for one breath. At the door, he tried one more script flip. "You'll be back," he said. "You always come back." "Not this time," I said. And it wasn't defiance, it was weather. On the porch, the neighbor finally turned a page. "Good luck," she murmured, like a benediction. We loaded the last box. David shut the truck gate with a clean, final clatter. The house looked smaller than it had that morning. In the rearview mirror, my eyes caught sunlight and threw it back. For a second, I recognized the person Dad had written to. 7 months later, I would recognize her again, in a different mirror, and the paperwork that proved it would be embossed with a single word, final. 7 months. Divorce, finalized. Name on the mailbox, mine again. Mornings, quiet in a way that doesn't scare me. I sleep like someone who put a heavy box down and walked away with both hands free. I live with Mom for now. We make tea without asking permission. I go for long walks and apply for jobs I'm excited about, not jobs that fit someone else's story for me. My phone doesn't buzz like a leash. When it lights up, it's friends, my brother, a meme that makes me laugh out loud in the produce aisle. I kept the Polaroid on my dresser. Some nights I hold it up and match the girl in that square to the woman in my mirror. The light isn't a floodlight. Not yet. It's a porch light. Warm, stubborn, always left on for myself. As for the 5 pages, they live in evidence. Sleeping dragons in a folder I don't need to open to remember what they taught me. Boundaries are not a threat. They're an address. You either live at them or you visit chaos. If you're here because you needed a stranger to go first, here I am, waving from the other side. It's not perfect. It's not cinematic. It's simple. It's peaceful. It's mine. Your turn. Talk to me in the comments. What single sentence ever snapped a light on for you the way Dad S did for me? Where did you draw a line that finally held? How did you word it? If you were me back on that airport chair with the 5-page email, what would you have written or not written back? And why? And for anyone stuck in manage by being smaller, what boundary would you set if you could borrow my brother's calm for 5 minutes? Share your story, your sentence, your line in the sand. Someone reading needs the exact words you're about to write.